Greetings, everyone. What a pleasure to be here with you in this beautiful space with this beautiful intention, the West Coast EcoFeminist Conference. I want to say a huge, huge thank you to Julia Orr and Charlotte Cressy for their amazing work in putting this excellent event together, an event that will inspire and enliven our energy for our activism. And as we go out into the world, will change the world itself. I would like to also thank Priestess, Naiad Priestess Mata, who is your attending priestess. That is her official title for this weekend. Everyone here at this space is a volunteer, and we pay no salaries. And so every staff member you see is someone who has volunteered her or his time to hold space, to keep the place for you to come and enjoy. So we are thanking Naiad Priestess Mata for being the primary person this weekend for holding that center for you, the West Coast Ecofeminist Conference community. We'd also like to thank Naiad Priestess Amina, who is the Sunday services facilitator for this weekend, and thank her for her amazing spiritual work. Both of these women, Mata and Amina, are in such devotion and give so much. So if you see them in the hallway sometime, please give them a big thank you and a hug for everything they have done. They are women who this temple, it could not run without them. That is the truth. I would also like to thank you, the conference attendees. We believe here at the temple that people who bring their energy here are people who gift us with that energy, because we believe that energy flows out from you and then literally in the coming days and weeks and months sticks to the walls. So your heart, your love for animals, for the land, it literally imbues this place with something magical and special, and that is our belief. So I ask you to take a moment to do something that you probably don't really do very often, if ever. You know, every day you get up, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, and you go about your day. And that day probably includes a lot of activism for the planet, for animals, for the land, for Mother Earth, for humanity. And so I would invite you to look at the fact that you are the visionaries of this day. Think about the visionaries who we honor from the past, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Now, these are the people whose faces are on stamps. And I suggest that it is your face that may be on a stamp sometime in the future. And just as the people of a bygone era, who were the activists of their era, just as they never thought about the credit or the being on a stamp or being recognized, so you do not think of that. You just, like they did, get up and do your work every day. But you will be honored in times to come. I believe it was the great anthropologist Margaret Mead who said, let me see if I can quote this exactly, "Never doubt that a small committed group of people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." I love that quote. It is the only thing that ever has, a small committed group of people changing the world. A great friend of mine and a most wonderful, brilliant scholar on matriarchal studies, Heide Abendroth-Gettner, a German woman who lives in Germany and has visited the temple. The last time she visited and taught here, we were talking about the size of the turnout for her brilliant lecture. And she said very calmly to me, Ava, in her beautiful German accent, she said, Ava, the avant-garde is always a tiny, tiny minority leading the way. And the great inspiring leader, Simon Sinek, if you have not seen his TED Talk, look it up on YouTube. Just type in Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, and TED Talk, and it's gotten, like 20 million hits. It's really quite brilliant. He's quite a wonderful person. And although he is talking mostly about the products that we buy, he does mention about ideas and how people like you are the early adopters of an idea, and your vision, your ability to see what's needed or what's going to work or what's new and what's very old and needs to come back. You are the early adopter for humanity. And the rest of humanity who is not as visionary, is kind of dragged kicking and screaming along, but eventually it does become mainstream. So to be the people who see what needs to happen before the concept is mainstream is quite an amazing thing. So I honor you, and I ask you to take a moment to do that thing that I'm pretty sure you don't do that often, and that is to just close your eyes for just a moment and honor yourself. Honor yourself for being this kind of person, for deciding to come to the planet and do this kind of work, because it is so what we all need. So here we are at an EcoFeminist conference, and it may surprise you, but I do not actually call myself a feminist. If you look up in the dictionary, the definition of feminist or feminism, it says the theory, I love that, the theory, kind of a subtle put down, isn't it? The theory of the political, social, and economic equality of women to men. The theory of the political, social, and economic equality of women to men. As if we are struggling to become on par with men. I do not believe this is correct. This is not, oh, and I hear the living beings barking. I put the sign up that said recording in progress. Did they not read it? Apparently not. Women are the natural authorities on earth. We author life. Whatever you author, you have authority with, not over, not power over, because that's a patriarchal concept, but a natural authority, because you are serving as the mother. And I'm not talking just about women here, but women are the originators of the archetype and the embodiment of that archetype in physical reality. Women are the mothers. So it's not the patriarchal power over, it's authority with. You have a natural authority because you want what is best for your children. Or in the case of all of you in this room, you want what is best for all life. That's what you care about. So whether you're a man or woman or any other gender, and I do believe there are more than two genders, whatever gender you are, if you want what is best for all life, if you respect and honor all life, then you have that motherhood principle in you, that good mother principle. Let me read from a brilliant friend of mine, colleague and teacher, Vajra Ma, her incredible book. It's like a Bible for everyone called The Hidden Stream, The Natural Spiritual Authority of Woman by Vajra, V-A-G-R-A. I believe her website is greatgoddess.org. That is, this brilliant book is kind of like a little mini Bible. I read it frequently because it has so many amazing things in it. As the image unfolds of natural spiritual authority, we discover how it differs from the imposed and enforced dogmas and doctrines of the patriarchal paradigm. Because what grows naturally is based in woman's natural spiritual authority is love, protection, nurturance, and guidance of the life she has created, not only for the physical children she has created in her body, but for all life. For her own motherhood is embedded in a vaster motherhood of earth and the cosmic womb. Men, too, can participate in this motherhood by opening and connecting to all around them in a direct, sensate way, unfiltered by dogma or conditioning, by recognizing that this connection is more easily accessed by women and by revering and respecting women in their spherical, holistic, sensual awareness. This leads to a recognition and realization that this is not other than spirituality, but central to it. As men do this, they too open to what Zulu healer Credo Matwa calls mother mind, that part of human consciousness that feels what is happening in the world. When we look at reality, the world around us, we see that what authors life has authority in relation to that life. And this authority is inseparable from responsibility. Authority exists in relation to, not by might or force over. We will see, as she says in the book, how relationship is the determining factor in natural, that is, authentic authority. This authorship emerges from power, not force, from relationship and responsibility, the power with, and not from violence and domination, which is the power over. By now, motherhood must be obvious as the central and permeating dynamic in woman's natural spiritual authority. Natural authority is inseparable from reverence for life, from love. The quintessential embodiment of this reality is motherhood. This is motherhood with a capital M, encompassing both the highly personal experience of being a mother and the transpersonal experience of the supreme spiritual principle of love intrinsic to motherhood. Vajra, the hidden stream, the natural spiritual authority of woman. So, in this concept, this reality, it's more than a concept, this reality of the natural spiritual reality and authority of woman, we have something that has overturned this. Patriarchy, we call it. Patriarchy is, the definition of patriarchy is, quote, rule of the father. And patriarchy is only about 6,000 to 10,000 years old on this planet. We have, as humans, have lived on this planet a very long time, much longer than the patriarchal mindset has ruled. And so patriarchy, this dominator mindset, this control over mindset, is only a few thousand years old. Most people think, well, that's just the way human beings are. We're all just violent, we're at war. It's just always going to be war and poverty. And no, it has not always been that way on this planet. And the archaeological record shows that. The big five religions, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism, which is not really a religion, but more a philosophy, they're less than, all of them are less than 6,000 years old. Before that, everywhere on the planet, everywhere, was goddess culture, matriarchies, which is not patriarchy in reverse. It does not mean woman dominating man in the same way. A matriarchy, the shortest and easiest way to explain it is the good mother wants only good for all her children. In a good matriarchy, a good mother would not, there would be no 1%. There would be not 99% of the people struggling and 1% having far, far too much. That would not happen in a matriarchy because it is insanity. It is crazy. It does not make any sense. The good mother wants only good for all her children and would dispense things more or less equally so that all can share in the good. The Dalai Lama said that it is the Western woman who will save the world. And I love the Dalai Lama. He is an amazing being bringing peace and beauty to our planet. I honor him in every way. The Western woman has had a couple hundred years to save the world, and she has not actually done so yet. I believe it is the queen in woman who will save the world. And if you go back in the archaeological record, you will see that at one time all women were seen as good queens leading humanity. And I always say when the goddess got thrown out of religion, the queen got thrown out of woman. And at one time, thousands of years ago, and we know this goes back in the archaeological record many thousands of years ago because we have goddess sculptures from dug up all over the world in almost every culture, all over the world. And one of the oldest we know of, which is at least 250,000 years old, if not older. There's some debate. Some people say it's 800,000 years old, but everyone agrees that it's at least 250,000 years old, is the Achillean goddess found in the Golan Heights just a few years ago. And this is a goddess statue, and it's very rough. It fits in your palm. And so we know that goddess was, everyone on the planet saw divinity as the great mother. This is a very different view from a great father, which is, as we have seen for the last few thousand years, more punitive, more angry, more vengeful. I believe that women must lead again, not out of ego or, personal aggrandizement, but simply for the good of humanity. Men have about 10 times the amount of testosterone that women have. This is natural and good, nothing wrong with this. This is the way God has made them, and we have a great appreciation for men. Men are holy, men are sacred, men are divine. But men must not lead the planet alone without the benefit of woman. Men have about 10 times the testosterone that woman has. Interestingly, when men are in groups, something very amazing happens when it's all men in groups, such as the men who form the bodies that lead this country, men who form the bodies that lead war. When men get together and there are no women around, their testosterone level, which is already 10 times as high as most women, spikes even more. There's some hormonal thing that happens that increases the overall testosterone of the group even more than what it normally is. Testosterone, we know, is linked to aggression, to violence, to this dominator model thinking, and to what can only be called selfishness. In other words, not being sensitive to the needs of others, but rather just taking what you want, and the hell with everybody else. Testosterone is scientifically inextricably linked. The more testosterone you have, the more you will exhibit these qualities. So this is why men must not lead alone. The fact is that men are not happy in a patriarchy. Look at all of the terrible things that men are put through in a patriarchy. This is not about men against women. This is not about women complaining about men. This is not about male bashing, and this is not about men are wrong and women are right and women are angels and men are devils. Absolutely not. Patriarchy is a mindset that anyone can hold, man or woman or any other gender. So men are not served by living in a patriarchy. And it's taken us a few thousand years to actually figure this out. No one is happy in a patriarchy, not even the people who are, quote, at the top of the ladder, of the pyramid. They're not really happy. Yes, they might have more resources than the rest of us. Yes, they might be the 1%, but they're not part of the tribe, are they? They're not one with humanity. They are not in reverence to life. They are broken. And many people are envious of those who have a great deal in terms of material things, but these people are not as happy as they would be if they were in a culture where everyone was pulling together, everyone was sharing, and everyone was more or less equal, and everyone was benefiting from the work that was done. So men are not happy in a patriarchy. No one is. But having women return to the place of the good mother, the natural spiritual authority, and everything is a spiritual matter. There really isn't anything that isn't. Having women lead will make life better for all, including men, and of course, animals, the land, all beings. The temple teaches that all is one, all is sacred, all is eternal. So this is no war between the sexes. This is seeing reality clearly so that we can go beyond this dominator model, so that we can go beyond this selfishness, this fear, because in a patriarchy, there's only so much of the pie to go around, and you jump in there and you grab your piece, and the hell with everybody else. This is a scary way to live. And most people live, both wealthy people and people who are not wealthy. Most people live in great fear. If you do not have a lot of the pie, if you do not have a lot of money, then you live in fear of, are you going to be able to pay your rent? Are you going to have enough money next year to survive? But you know, if you're one of the 1%, you live in fear too, because that can be taken away from you. And you know it very well that it can be taken away from you. And so you live in fear then too. The only way not to live in fear is to change this paradigm, to live in a matriarchy where everyone shares, everyone works to the best of their ability, everyone takes care of the children, everyone looks to the future. People do not rape the earth to get theirs, and the hell with the next generation. Like the indigenous people say, they look 7 generations ahead. This is what it means to live in a sane world. And this is the sanity that people like you are bringing back to humanity. Thank you for that. The work of an ecofeminist is very challenging. You know how much grief and sadness there is in this work. You know how much frustration and anger there is in this work. It is very hard on the body. It is very hard on the mind. It is very hard on the spirit. You know, I led a big animal rights group for many, many years. Lots of arrests. I was arrested more than 20 times. Many demonstrations, led a couple hundred demonstrations. Many conflicts with vivisectors, with rodeo people, with owners of fur stores. It was a tough 15-year period. I felt during that period pressed, as some of you might feel pressed, like I could not stop until everything was fixed. I was completely driven. And I did not take care of myself. And I burned out. After, it was almost 15 years, I burned out. And I dropped out for a year. And in that year, I literally could not move. I literally just laid on the couch and zoned out and watched TV and, you know, meditated and slept, and I couldn't move. I was completely broken. During this time, some things came to me. I saw that with every success in animal rights that I had, and I had some successes, We closed down the dolphin tank at Knott's Berry Farm. A lot of you who are a little younger than I am don't know that Knott's Berry Farm had a dolphin tank for many years. We got that, filled it with concrete, and got those dolphins released. We closed many vivisection experiments at UCI. We closed several fur stores. We ended calf roping at the Orange County Rodeo. All of this was a lot of hard work by a lot of people. But in this year where I burned out, I saw that even though we had some successes, it was as if I was cutting out a little piece of cancer from a body. And I'd cut out this little piece of cancer. Yes, that one would be gone. Yes, we succeeded with that. But then another thing would arise. The thing would not be finished. The thing was not accomplished. Peace and justice was not here. And I started to see that animal abuse was part of an overall system of this patriarchal thinking, this power over. In the mind of the ancient human, 4 things were tied together. And these 4 things are still tied together in the mind of humans today, although we're not as aware of it. Goddess, woman, animals, and the land. Abuse of any one of those inevitably results in the abuse of all of the others, because they are tied together. If you abuse animals, you will end up abusing women. If you rape the land, you will end up abusing women. They're all tied together. You cannot separate them. Abuse is abuse. So when this idea of a great mother got thrown out of religion, this whole concept of reverence for life got thrown out of religion also. And so we can all work, and I do believe that we have to work where our heart is called. My heart was called to animal rights for many, many years, and I did not want to do anything else except work on animal rights. That was where my heart was. After this year of being burned out, my heart started to see something different, started to see an overall picture of how all these forms of abuse were connected. And I wanted to work on that. And it wasn't that I abandoned animal rights. It was that I wanted to take a step back and see what was the larger picture. And I came to believe that the larger picture was this connection of goddess, woman, animals, and the land. And so I began to work for women's empowerment because I came to believe that women could save the world. So I do not decry anybody's individual work on any particular, because it takes all of us working on what our heart wants to work on. So people who feel their heart is, working for lobsters, I was listening to a couple of animal rights people arguing a little while ago, and one was saying, one was working for better treatment for lobsters, and the other was poo-pooing that and saying, this is ridiculous, we've got bigger fish to fry, an unfortunate metaphor. And he said, we need to work on vivisection. Vivisection is the worst thing. We need to get rid of vivisection. And, another person could say, well, we need to get rid of factory farming because that is the worst thing of all. Billions of animals in factory farming. This is a hopeless argument. People need to work on what their heart wants to work on. This woman, her heart is with lobsters. Good for her. Let her work on what her heart calls her to do. And you cannot put abuse and oppression on some kind of scale and say, okay, when we get rid of vivisection, then we can work on lobsters. No, let everybody work on what their heart wants to work on, and we will all get there together. So abuse of any one of these, goddess, woman, animals, and the land, will result in the abuse of the other. Now, goddess, the concept of a great mother, has been virtually removed from the human psyche, but as Vajrama says in her book, it is the hidden stream. It hasn't really been removed. It is still at the subliminal level informing us. We can still connect with, love, and appreciate Goddess, Mother Earth, call her whatever you will. And this changes everything. I believe we will never have rights for animals. We'll never have rights for women. We will never treat the environment with respect while we live in a patriarchy. This is the total cancer, if you will, of humanity. And we must eliminate that cancer rather than just cut out little sections here and there. So let's all work on the things that our heart calls us to do, and let us also recognize that patriarchy is the total disease. The idea of patriarchy is the idea of using other beings for our own purposes selfishly. Returning to the principles of the Great Mother, of sharing, of power with, not power over, of caring for all her children equally, is where we need to start. And it starts with you, yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. I did not take care of myself. I worked myself almost to death, and I paid the price. I did not care for myself, and so I burned out. During that year, I was not useful to anyone. I was not useful to the animals. I was not useful to anyone. And so I say to you, we must all be in this for the long haul. There go my guardians again. We must all be in this for the long haul. This situation is not likely to totally change in our lifetimes. We have to see far into the future the change that we are seeding now for generations to come. And I love my dogs. That sounds like Lolly. Lolly is a great being, very protective. I don't know what I'd do without her. She is the guardian of this household. Once I was very ill, and I called 911 on myself, and the fire department broke into my house, and Lolly circled me, foaming at the mouth as these 8 firefighters tried to get into the house to take care of me. I'm lying on the floor in agony in the living room, and they try to come in, and Lolly, little, 70-pound Lolly, she's a Kelpie Shepherd mix, she managed to hold 8 men in big black boots, because that's all I saw from my level down on the floor. She held 8 men at bay for half an hour, all by herself. Amazing being. Thank you, Lolly. So back to my point, we must be in this. We eco-feminists, we activists, we people who care about the earth, who care about animals, who care about men, women, children, the land. We visionaries. Yeah, I said it. We must be in this for the long haul. This is not likely to change in our lifetime, although we will see progress, and we have seen progress. We have to see far into the future the change that we are seeding now for generations to come. This work is very hard. Make no mistake, you know it's hard. So every day I make the suggestion that you gather your strength from Mother Earth, from the animals, from other feminists, women, men, other genders. From Mother Earth, take the energy, the prana, the life force, hado, nayama, shakti, called by many names. Take the energy from Mother Earth that she is offering you. Air, fire, water, and earth. When you breathe consciously, now make this a practice before you get out of bed every morning. The night before, put a glass of water covered, protected by your bedside. Before you do anything, when you wake up and it's a new day, breathe the air. It's Mother Earth's sweet breath, and she's giving it to you. Breathe it in and feel that oxygen enlivening you and vivifying you. And then notice that the sun is shining. Maybe you can't see it from your bed. You don't have to. You feel the light coming in. Connect with the sun and feel those sparkling sequins of light and energy, those photons entering your body and strengthening you. And then sit up and take your glass of water and drink it down. Bless yourself with this nourishment of Mother Earth, her water. And then put your feet on the floor and open up the chakras in the bottoms of your feet and let her earth energy come up and strengthen your body. Use the elements. These are the things that will give you power to help you not burn out. Don't burn out like I did. If I had known these things, I would have done better. Maybe I wouldn't have burned out. I wouldn't have wasted that year. Use Mother Earth's air, fire, water, and earth to strengthen yourself. Next, avail yourself of the energy of animals in the unseen world. Every animal who lives has a spirit presence in the unseen world, and you have a connection to that. We all do, because all is one. So even animal abusers have some connection, but their connection is broken. They are more disconnected from it because they are unaware of the reality of that connection. But you, as an ecofeminist, you understand that connection. A connection that goes beyond your body, beyond this life, into something much larger, into the unseen world, into the infinite, into the eternal. Do you imagine that the animals that you are trying to help in your life now, do you imagine for one moment that they do not know what you are doing? Do you imagine that they do not know how you are trying to help them? I assure you, I know for a fact that the spirit part of every being knows what the truth is. They know you are trying to help them. So connect with them and offer them your love, your compassion, which you're doing all the time anyway. Do it consciously and allow them to return loving energy to you. You can feel it. You just open up your heart to this. They say that, there's an old saying that says that every animal you have eaten in this life, you will have to meet in heaven. And that animal will look at you and say, "What did you do? You killed me." I believe the reverse is also true. I believe every being you try to help, whether you work for lobsters or chickens or cows or animals in vivisection laboratories or whatever you are doing, I believe those animals will meet you on the other side in the spirit world, and you will bow to each other, and you will say thank you to one another. So do it now. Take that energy, that beautiful, loving energy. Take it now. A third way to avail yourself of energy so that you can stay strong for this work is connecting to your friends, treating them well, loving them, being especially kind. I've seen a lot of anger and aggression in the animal rights movement. This is not what animal rights is about. Being judgmental or angry with people, judging people for what they eat. This brings more pain to the planet. And the whole point of animal rights, as I see it, is to bring more compassion, more beauty, more love, more peace, more justice, not more anger. Rights for other living beings means bringing more compassion to the world. So do that with those who are your friends and even those who are your so-called enemies. For as the Mayans say, en Lakesh, you are another face of me. even people you disagree with so strongly. They are another face of you. Bring them your love and your beauty. And that is the thing that has more hope of changing their heart than anything else. So take care of yourself. Feel your grief. Let your tears of sadness and rage and frustration flow, and then receive energy. Receive energy from Mother Earth and her elements, from your animal friends, from your human friends, and reach back to the generation before us who did this same work. Those people I spoke of a moment ago, those visionaries whose faces are on stamps now. Reach back to their spirits, because their spirits are surely connected to you now and encouraging you and cheering you on, you who are doing the work for human beings now in this generation. Feel their strength. They want to give you their strength in the unseen world. And then you give your strength to the next generation, because you are the ancestress or the ancestor of the future. Everything is unfolding and evolving as it must, whether we like it or not. There's a lot I don't like, but whether we like it or not, everything is unfolding as it must. Everything is unfolding as it must, whether we understand it or not. Love is everything. Everything is either love or a cry for love. People who abuse animals, people who rape the land, people who hurt children, all of that is really a tremendous cry for love. Everything is either love or a cry for love. See it that way, and you will be able to see clearly what needs to be done to make the change that we all want to see. Be in love with life. Do your sacred work, knowing that you are leading the world to goodness. You are leading the world to goodness. I honor you. Blessed be.